January 27, 1947. Mark Foster Udell was born in the cozy northeastern village of Brockport, New York. His parents, Louis Foster and Carol Jean Udell, led a military family, for Louis traveled often in his profession as a Navy lieutenant commander. Growing up, Mark shared a strong emotional bond to his mother, but he suffered a poor relationship with his father, as most boys experience in a time of teen rebellion. He also had one sister. Mark's hometown was founded in 1822 by partner land speculators Hale Brockway and James Seymour. Through the center of the village, the Erie Canal functioned as an ultimate aid to the population growth due to an increase of trade and settlement. Mark also resided in a wide array of cities, such as that from Brunswick, Maine, to the towns of Cuba prior to Fidel Castro's dictatorship in 1959. He most likely spent most of his formative years in Maine, however. In the words of Kathleen, he found Maine to be too cold, but he greatly appreciated the balmy breezes and lush palm trees in Cuba. Following his high school career, Mark was drafted to the Millington Naval Base where his father was stationed. However, his poor relationship with his father provoked him to instead enlist in the Army. He then transferred to Schofield Barracks in the Honolulu County of Hawaii. This location is the home of the 25th Infantry Division, otherwise known as the Tropic Lightning Division, since 1941, as well as the headquarters for the United States Army Hawaii. In Hawaii, Mark completed 8 months of basic training, followed by a course in infantry, which lasted between 2 to 6 months. He further specialized as a grenadier, where he would be trained to carry out assault operations. During boot camp, he met the love of his life, 17-year-old high school senior Kathleen Williams. A surfer girl from California, she impressed Mark with her extreme talent on the longboard. Their first encounter occurred when they caught the same wave. When they washed up ashore, they immediately hit it off, for he demonstrated a keen interest in a girl who could surf, for this was uncommon in the 1960s. Oftentimes, they would spend their time together with long walks on the beach. They valued their time in the present together, for 60s culture was composed of young minds and experimentation. Mark revealed a very small interest in the development of his future plans after the war. Comrade Clark Ritchie described Mark as a free spirit without a care in the world. Mark had also joined his Army Division's football team to utilize his athleticism and finesse. However, he skipped many practices just to see Kathleen. She further described him as a risk-taker because he went AWOL to visit her, but nonetheless, he was infinitely jovial and kind. Within the final hours of Mark's training, he once again went AWOL to meet Kathleen in Waikiki where they had first met. Following a small meal of cheese, crackers, and wine, the pair drove to Benoa Valley to hike 8 miles into the pouring rain. They later returned to the beach for their final surf. Persuading the man in charge of rental boards, Mark gained 2 longboards at no charge to him. Kathleen expressed awe, for his rhetorical finesse allowed him to sell a refrigerator to an Eskimo. Out on the water, the rain halted and the sun gave rise to brilliant rainbows in the vast open sky. Mark expressed his deep appreciation for nature, for he would be heard proclaiming to the world just how beautiful it was. Upon separation, Mark returned to the base and Kathleen went home. That evening, they met at the airport where they would hug and kiss for the last time. Through their tears, they expressed their deep love for one another. He had encouraged her to go into nursing school back home and lead a great life until his return. They frequently wrote letters to one another. Mark had once expressed his worries when the tanks of his company departed, leaving their foot soldiers completely vulnerable. He then became fearful of the war, and rightfully so. Mark began his tour of Vietnam on Independence Day, July 4th, 1965. 10 months later, he makes the ultimate sacrifice for his infantry. In the Boi Loi Woods of the Tay Ninh province of South Vietnam, Mark's company received intense Viet Cong fire from concealed positions to the front. Private First Class Udell then charged an insurgent bunker. With complete disregard for his safety, he fired his weapon at point-blank range through the bunker aperture and continued to engage the Viet Cong force until he was mortally wounded by hostile fire from an unobserved position. As a result of this courteous act, the Viet Cong machine gun bunker was completely destroyed. Private First Class Udell's extraordinary heroism in close combat against a numerically superior hostile force was in keeping with the highest traditions of the military service and reflects great credit upon himself, his unit, and the United States Army. In a previous letter, Mark had promised Kathleen to reunite with her in Hawaii during his rest and relaxation in late May. Unfortunately, the following letter she had received was the most dreaded letter from the War Department. She then flew east to mourn with Mark's family in Brockport, New York, where he was buried. The Purple Heart awards in the name of the President for those wounded or killed while they served. The National Defense Service Medal awards those who served honorably during a designated time period of which a national emergency had been declared during a time of war or conflict. The Vietnam Service Medal awards members recognized for service during the Vietnam War. The Vietnam Campaign Medal awards for wartime service in support of military conflict in Vietnam by the South Vietnamese military. The Silver Star Medal is awarded for gallantry in action against an enemy of the United States.